Welcome to the King Films College Basketball Predictions and Betting Locks show for the weekend of January 2nd and 3rd. I'm your host AJ, and we'll be starting out with 8 locks I have for the Saturday slate. So let's start with the highly anticipated early game. We've got Texas, number 8 Texas, and number 3 Kansas. So in this matchup, I like Kansas as a lock minus 4.5. We've got a Texas team. They're 4th in strength of record, but I think they're overrated because the metric kind of skews more towards the one-loss and undefeated teams. So I'll mention it throughout this video, but Texas doesn't have any real wins. Kansas is a proven good team. They're 2nd in strength of record. Take that as you will. They've got wins over Texas Tech, West Virginia, and Creighton, and I like Agbaji, Wilson, and Braun on this team, and I'm taking them to beat Texas by more than 4.5. That may seem a bit rash because if you've been watching the Big 12 games this year between the contending teams, so not Iowa State or Kansas State pretty much, you'll notice that a lot of them have been close in that middle tier, and I think this one will be close, but I think Kansas will be able to take out what I see as an overrated Texas team. Moving on to the second game, I've got Missouri plus 5.5. I think this Missouri team is going to win outright. They're coming off a loss to UT. They've got good wins over Illinois and Oregon. Then Arkansas coming off an impressive win over Auburn. You see the 9-0 start there, but last season they did the same exact thing. Strong non-conference and a little conference game to start out. Started out 14-2. Dropped to 16-10, so just 2 wins over their next 10 games. I think that losing streak is going to get started now with a loss to a good Missouri team. In Virginia Tech, Virginia, I'm taking Virginia Tech here with the lock because I think that this Virginia team is quite frankly overrated. I mean, they have losses to USF and a good Gonzaga team, of course, but they haven't really done much. I mean, they beat Notre Dame the other day. They've got Kihei Clark still, Huff, and Hauser. Those are all good for 10 points a game, but give me this Virginia Tech team with good wins over Villanova and Clemson. Moving on to the 4th lock, we've got LSU and Florida. Give me LSU to win this game. I don't think people realize, just following the metrics, that Florida will not have Keontae Johnson for this game. I respect Florida, but they're a relatively unknown team until he comes back. And for LSU, they have a great offense and a win over TAMU in their last game. But again, we'll have to see what this team is once Keontae Johnson returns. On to the next game, we've got Iowa and Rutgers, and I've got Rutgers with the lock. So Rutgers has not lost at the RAC, that's their home stadium, since the 2018-19 season. They have wins this year over Cuse, Maryland, Illinois, and Purdue. Of course, many Big Ten teams will have some quality wins. They've got Harper, Mathis, and Young. They average 15 apiece, and I think this is going to be a very offensive game. I think you should take the over. I don't have it locked here, but it's probably good advice because Iowa also are a very offensive team. Just Garza and Wieskamp for them average 45 a game. Great offense, but subpar defense, and that's where I think Rutgers is going to get them. That Iowa team also has good wins over Northwestern, Purdue, and UNC. Moving on to the next game, we've got Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, and I'm locking in Oklahoma State to win and the plus 8.5. By the way, all the logos here are teams I have winning, so I have most of these dogs winning outright, and that's why I've selected the games. So at least even if it's close, the lock will still stand. Oklahoma State, close losses to a good TCU and Texas teams. And then they've got Cade Cunningham, obviously, with 19 points per game. Likely is another great player for them. And at 6-2, I think they can take down a good Texas Tech team, but they'll definitely fall within that 8.5 mark. Texas Tech got a close loss to KU and a win over Oklahoma. And they've got Mac McClung, but I just don't see them taking out a good Oklahoma State team, and at the very least, this will be a very competitive and close game, and Oklahoma State will cover the spread. Moving on to the 7th game, we've got Purdue and Illinois, and I've got Purdue locked at plus 7.5. Purdue is a good team with wins over Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Maryland, and Illinois has wins over Duke, Minnesota, and Indiana. But that being said, I like Purdue here. These are evenly matched teams. Disregard that ranking next to Illinois. the committee is a bit rash with their rankings. But give me Purdue here to at least cover the spread, and I like them winning on the road. In the last lock, we've got TCU and Kansas State. And in this game, I've got TCU minus 4.5, so the second favorite I've taken today. And they've got good wins over Liberty, Oklahoma State, and TAMU. That's Texas A&M. And they're 8-2. This is a good team. And then Kansas State, I think their loss to Fort Hays State by 12 just kind of sums up this team. They do have the win over Iowa State in Big 12 conference play, but this is a team that's going to be a basement dweller. So give me TCU to win by at least 4.5. Moving on to some notable games. Also on Saturday, we've got a Creighton and Providence game, and I think that Creighton is overrated. They have close losses to KU and Marquette, and good wins over UConn and Xavier. They've got Mahogany, is a very good player, but I like Creighton here. I was not sure who to pick in this game, to be honest, but I've got Creighton by maybe a point or two. They like to play in close games. And then for Providence, they've got good wins over TCU and Seton Hall, and David Duke averages 20 points a game for them. Expect them to hang around and maybe give Creighton a game and all they can handle. In the second one here, we've got West Virginia against Oklahoma. West Virginia has good wins over VCU and WKU, but I think they're a bit overrated at the 9 slot in the AP poll. As for Oklahoma, I've got them winning this game, and they're actually favored in the Vegas line, I believe. They've got a good win over TCU. Reeves and Manick combined are good for 30 points a game. Give me Oklahoma here at home. Moving on to the third notable game, we've got Alabama and Tennessee. And, Alabama deserves some recognition. They're an up-and-down team with wins over Providence and Furman. But, they lost to, good WKU team and Stanford. But Tennessee is just the better team here. They have a great win over Missouri. That's kind of their only huge win of the season, but undefeated nonetheless. And they've got Pons and Bailey, who are great players for them. I see them taking this game by 10 plus. Duke and Florida State, I think both of these teams are frauds so far, do not deserve a committee ranking. But I like Florida State here because they've got that win over Florida. I don't know if it counts. That was the one where Johnson went down. And they've got a win over Georgia Tech. Don't know about that team. And then Indiana. So those are all relatively unknown teams to me, at least. I haven't found any of their identity, and I'd say it's the same for Duke against them, where, they've got a great player in Matthew Hurt, Stewart, Johnson. They lost their 2 games that were supposed to be competitive, but did beat Notre Dame. Their 2 losses came to Michigan State team that's on the downfall right now, and then in Illinois. So good Big Ten competition. This Duke team still has to prove a lot to me before I can lock them or even give them the win here against a decent, maybe, Florida State team. I don't know. We don't know. And in the late game, we've got Stanford and Oregon, and I respect both of these teams immensely. Stanford's got aforementioned wins over Bama and then Arizona by 1. They've got Oscar Da Silva, Dejon Davis, Williams, and Wills. Those guys are all good for 10 a game. And obviously in their win over an 8-1 Arizona, so that's Arizona's only loss, we saw that Stanford's for real. I don't think they got any votes in the AP poll, but this is a good team, and I think this will be a very close game. The only reason I'm not giving it to Stanford outright is because it is at Oregon. Pretty hard place to play. Cal gave them a game last night in the first half. Speaking of Oregon, they've got a good win over Seton Hall, and Omori, the transfer, and then Duarte that they had last year. Those are both good players for this Oregon team, and I've got them beating Stanford in a close one. Moving on to my 6 picks for Sunday. So these are games that I would otherwise maybe lock for the Vegas spread, but they only release spreads 1 day in advance. So these are the notable games of Sunday. We've got number 6 Wisconsin against a Penn State team that's 3-4. And don't sleep on this Penn State team. They're very good. They've got a win over Virginia Tech, a very good team. And they're the 3rd best strength of schedule in the Power 6, so I'm including Big East and along with the traditional Power 5. Don't sleep on them. I've still got Wisconsin in this game. They've got Trice, Potter, and Davidson combined averaging 40 points a game. It's a good Wisconsin team, and I have them beating Penn State here. In this Ohio State-Minnesota game, Minnesota does have a loss on the week, so expect their ranking to drop a little and maybe out of the rankings completely if they lose to Ohio State here. For that reason, I like their urgency. I have them beating Ohio State here at home. This is a Minnesota team with good wins over Iowa, Michigan State, and St. Louis that would be undefeated otherwise. And for Ohio State, they've got Liddell and Washington. Those are great players, but I see Minnesota taking this one in a very competitive Big Ten matchup. As for Houston and SMU, Houston's coming off the loss to Tulsa, but they did beat a good Texas Tech team earlier in the season. SMU has good wins over Dayton and ECU in American play. Had Houston won earlier in the week, I would have given SMU this game probably and maybe even locked it, but now that Houston lost, I think they'll have a little bit of urgency. SMU played Temple close earlier in the week, so give me Houston in this one. They are the fifth ranked team in the nation. That is, when you lose to an unranked Tulsa, that is a bit overrated. Moving on to the Northwestern and Michigan matchup, I'm taking Michigan. This team was amazing against Maryland on Thursday, and they're 8-0, so of course they've got their third in strength of record, take that as you will. They've got Livers, Dickinson, and Wagner, and Livers and Dickinson average 30 a game, and their only real marquee win is that win over Maryland, but still undefeated, so give me them to win. Northwestern, also a good team, win over Ohio State and Michigan State, so they're a team that can compete in the Big Ten, but I don't have this being their day. Michigan team at home, give me them. For this other game, we've got a Missouri Valley Conference showdown with Southern Illinois and Drake. Give me Drake by 10 plus. They don't really have any good wins, but they're better than this bad Southern Illinois team. I'm just putting this here because, Drake might make the tournament out of the Missouri Valley. Southern Illinois, hasn't really played anyone either, and they're a much worse team. So give me Drake by double figures. In the last notable game, we've got a Wake Forest and Georgia Tech game. Wake Forest is only 3-0, haven't seen them play much, but they played with a D2 team the other night, so I'm pretty sure that they're not good, despite being undefeated. Georgia Tech, not really sure which team we're going to see out of them. This is a team that lost to Mercer and Georgia State, but has a good win over UNC, so that was their last game, so give me them to continue the momentum, I guess, against a bad Wake Forest team. I don't think that Georgia Tech is particularly good, but they're a very up and down team, and I like them to win this matchup. Thank you for watching.